Welcome to toy-polloi. Parental guidance. This video contains scenes of Lego destruction.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi, and in today's video we're going to be looking at restoring and repairing this vintage He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Road Ripper. Now the Road Ripper is a great toy. It's one of those ones where it has a large weighted flywheel inside that you use a ripcord to sort of pull out and spin the flywheel and make the thing fly down the road at a really quite fast speed. But because of that, every single one of them you'll see will be damaged because a child has sort of come and had a go with the ripcord, they've flown along the road and bits of them have broken off, and this one is no exception. As you can see, it has quite a few areas of damage. We'll go over those in greater detail at the moment, but first up, let's take a look at the advert that was used to sell this toy to kids of the 80s.
He-Man. You can pretend the new Road Ripper helps He-Man fight evil.
We'll stop He-Man this time.
Skeletor, Panther, Road Ripper, and He-Man each sold separately.
Road Ripper never runs from evil. Road Ripper blows evil away! Way to go! Road Ripper!
Road Ripper vehicle is new from the Masters of the Universe collection. He-Man, Skeletor, and Panther figures each sold separately from Mattel.
So as you can see, it was a toy that was meant to be played with and meant to be sort of rolled down the road, and I'm guessing that most children wouldn't have had a nice smooth surface to run the Road Ripper on, so it would have gone down all sorts of pavements and concrete and all sorts of that, and that's why they end up so damaged, because the road surfaces are rough and these things are made out of plastic, so things tend to break on them. Now this one has quite a lot of areas of damage and we're going to try and fix all of them today, so let's take a closer look at them. If I remove He-Man here, you can see the first thing that is broken is the little clip that's supposed to hold the seatbelt on. There's supposed to be a little stud that sticks out there and you lock the seatbelt in place and that holds the figure on, and this one is snapped off. This is a very common issue. I've seen quite a lot of those with that missing. We also have some damage on the back here. You can see there are sort of four little sort of fins. I guess they're just sort of bits of detailing, but this one has a couple of them snapped off. I would guess that's probably because when this turns over, or if you sort of run it down a road and it turns over, those things are quite easily snapped, so we've got to repair that. Another major issue is the fact the front wheel has come off. This is held in place. There should actually be sort of posts on either side of this wheel sticking out, which I do happen to have, and that has snapped. I'm guessing at some point maybe this was trodden on, so we're going to have to work out a way to fix that back on. Also, it's really dirty and missing the stickers. The only stickers that are on this vehicle are the ones that were applied in the factory, so there's two on the back here and the two eyes at the front. There was a sticker sheet that also came with this, which doesn't look like this one has been applied at all, so we're going to recreate all of those and put those on. This does need a very good clean. It is really filthy dirty. I'm not quite sure what's happened to it over the years, but it's been stored possibly in a loft or something like that, and there's a lot of sort of dirt and grime over it, so we are going to fix that up. Now luckily I do have the ripcord for this, but I've ordered some others from different toys which we're going to try later on to see if there's a modern replacement that we can use for this, but as it stands I do have one, so that's not something I need to find. But I think the first thing we do need to do on this is give it a good clean. As I say, it is really dirty. So I'm going to give this a wash in some hot soapy water. Because there are metal pieces inside, especially this flywheel here, I'm not going to submerge it in the water. I'm going to use a toothbrush and get the hot soapy water and sort of wash and rub away and remove all the grime so that we can get this as clean as we possibly can. Then once that's done, we can start repairing all of these issues. After a good clean, as always, everything starts to look a whole lot better, so we get to see really what the Road Ripper looks like, and it's actually not in too bad condition, even though it's got these sort of broken areas. The bulk of it is in pretty reasonable shape. I can sort of see now as well, I think what's happened is someone has trodden on the front of this, because you can see there's quite a stress mark just under the head part of the Road Ripper there, and also some stress marks around the bottom of it, so I reckon someone has trodden on this, and that is what has snapped the wheel out of the front. But we are going to be able to fix that. Originally this wheel would have had these little posts sticking out of either side, and that's what holds the wheel in place, but as I say, because of someone sort of standing on it, it snapped both of those off. It was actually interesting that these were still inside the vehicle. They'd stayed exactly where they were sort of put in the first place. So what we're going to do is replace that post by drilling a hole through the middle of this and replacing it with a new piece of plastic. Now there is a slight issue with it, because obviously when this toy was put together, that was sort of all in place and then it's glued together, so getting a new post in there I initially thought was actually going to be quite hard work, but with a little bit of prizing I've been able to slightly sort of open the front section here. There is a post there that it sort of attaches these two portions together, and by just sort of gently twisting with a knife I was able to crack that. And then there's another post which you can just about see in there, and I've just taken my penknife saw blade and I've very carefully cut in there and cut through that post, and that's enabled me to actually open up the front portion of this vehicle. So you can see I can now sort of pull this apart relatively widely, and that will enable us to put a new post through here and then open the vehicle up and sort of slot it in place. It won't be quite as long as the original one, but I don't think that actually matters, so it's going to do the job. I was hoping I didn't have to actually take the whole vehicle apart, because all Masters of the Universe vehicles are glued, and splitting them is really quite hard work. On this one though, we're lucky because it's only got a small bit of fixing here and that one post there that I've shown you can saw. And then once we fit the new wheel, we can actually glue that together, and it shouldn't cause any issues to the toy, and I don't think you'll even notice that that has been sort of taken apart. So for the post, I've been sort of looking through my Lego pot, because normally I would go straight to Lego. This is actually a 4mm post, and Lego don't do anything that is 4mm, but Meccano do, and I've shown this part before in some other projects that I've worked on. So I could use this. This is a fairly common part. I'll put the number at the bottom of the screen if you want to grab that. But I decided not to use that and actually buy something for this project. So I bought this, which is a 4mm, I think it's nylon rod, so it's got a little bit of flex to it, and I wanted the flex so that it sort of gives it a little bit of spring. This is a very hard sort of plastic, and I think it may snap again if anyone puts any pressure on it, whereas this nylon rod just has a little bit of flex, so we're going to be using that. You can pick this up. I bought this on eBay. I think it was about £2, but you can buy it sort of from most model shops. I would have thought it's a very useful thing to have, so I'm just going to be using a small portion of that. So what I've got to do is drill a 4mm hole through the centre of this. I'm actually going to do a pilot hole first, just so that I get everything lined up. So I've got my pin vise here, so I can just drill a small hole there just to make sure I've got everything in the centre, and then I'll take this out to my garage and use a larger electric drill to drill a 4mm hole. And at the same time as doing that, I'm going to drill a hole here, which is the little area where the seatbelt is supposed to attach to, because we are going to use a piece of Lego to fix that. Now I've shown this piece of Lego multiple times on He-Man fixes and on many other fixes. It's a little sort of ball joint on a Lego Technic pin, very useful to have, and what we're going to do is just drill a hole into that and insert one of those in there, because again, as luck would have it, this just seems to fit quite nicely on the seat belt. So if we just push that seat belt over it, you can see that really holds it in place quite nicely. So yeah, while I'm drilling the hole for the front axle, I'm also going to drill a hole for this. It's about the same size. I think Lego pieces are slightly bigger. As I say, this is about 5mm. You can just see that's slightly bigger than the Meccano piece, but I'm going to drill a 4mm hole so I have a bit of control about sort of shaping it with some files. So let's get all of these holes drilled. Okay, I've now drilled all of the holes, and I think it's time to do a bit of a test fit. With the plastic that's used for the body, it's quite brittle, so do drill very slowly into that. I really take my time when sort of drilling with this harder plastic, because you can just cause it to split and crack, and that's really not what you want to do. So on this one, I've drilled a hole that is the same size as this Lego piece. We should be able to just push that in. It may be that you don't even need to glue it. Yeah, actually that has gone in really very tightly, so I don't think you'll even need to glue that. Now you could actually paint this the same sort of green colour, but I actually think that looks quite nice in black, and by the time we put the seatbelt over the top of this, yeah, it just looks the part. So I'm not actually going to do anything more to that. It doesn't need gluing, and it just works. So that's a very easy fix. Now for the front wheel, obviously we've got this rod here which we need to insert into the hole that I've drilled. I'm hoping that, again, this hole is just about the right size, so we don't need to glue anything. It will just sort of hold in place. Yeah, that is really very firmly in place. So what I've got to do now is actually just sort of cut this. I'm not quite sure how long it needs to be, because it depends how wide we can sort of pull this front portion open. So I'm going to say about 5mm each side will probably do. So let's just sort of get that to about 5mm. Then I'm going to chop the other side off just using some plastic nippers. It may need to be a little bit shorter, but as I've not fixed one of these before, I'm just sort of guessing the sort of dimensions that we're going to work with. So let's chop that off. Very nice and easy to chop the nylon stuff. I think we probably need to just tidy up that end a bit so that there's no sort of bits sticking out. We want this wheel to sort of roll really quite freely, so I don't want any sort of lumps and bits sticking out where I've chopped it. So I'm just going to soften that edge down. We'll do the same on this side. That should be enough. Now let's try and fit it. This is where it's going to get a bit awkward, because we sort of have to open up the vehicle enough that we can push this in. As I say, this is where I'm not quite sure how much we can sort of open this up and get this in. It's going to be really quite tricky. I think that's still way too long, even with the post split open like that. Yeah, that's still too long. So let me trim this down a little bit more, and then we'll try again. Okay, so that's now a little bit thinner again. As I say, this is not something I've ever fixed before, so I'm just sort of, trying ideas as I go. But I'm hopeful it feels like it's almost there. I don't want to sort of put too much pressure on the plastic of the body. Oh, there we go, I've got that bit in. Let's line that up with the two holes on the inside. Oh yeah, there we go. I think that is in, and that is working. That's yeah, that feels really good. Ah, very pleasing. So there we go. That's the front wheel of the Road Ripper reattached. So now we just need to glue this back together, and I think for that we'll need a bit of plastic weld. But yeah, the front wheel is back on. On the Road Ripper, I cut the post there, and I managed to crack the post at the front. So what we've got to do is actually sort of glue this back together at these 2 points, just so that it doesn't have an opportunity to come apart. Now the plastic that this is made from will work very well with this EMA plastic weld, which I've shown multiple times on the channel now. So if you haven't seen me use it before, I don't know what you've been watching. What we do is we get a bit on the brush, and we just have to sort of brush it onto the areas that we want to glue. You can do it with sort of capillary action. In this instance, because I can get the vehicle open, I'm just sort of brushing some on liberally to start with. I'll then sort of allow this to close, and I'm going to drip a bit more into the gaps, and that should weld these two bits of plastic together. On this part as well, I can actually get inside there. Just do that. But this should form quite a strong bond, and then the front of this shouldn't come apart again. It will be stuck forever. Now for these missing sort of back fin pieces or vent pieces, I'm just going to be using some 2mm styrene sheet. Now this is an offcut of some sheet that I've used for other projects, and it really is just about the right thickness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully shape this and cut this until I make some replacement fins or sort of blades, whatever you want to call these bits, and then I will be attaching those again with some plastic weld. There's no sort of right or wrong way to do this, so I'm really just going to get on on and do it. I've got a knife, I've got a ruler, I've got a pencil, and I've got some other bits like plastic nippers, and I'm just going to get cutting and see what I can make. Once I've got them attached, I will then paint them so that they match this nice sort of vibrant green, but initially they will be white and it'll be quite obvious where they are. But yeah, let's just get cutting. And here is how it looks after a little bit more work. I did a bit of fine tuning and I've added some paint on top of it. The paint match is not quite as close as I would like. I don't have a green that really matches this sort of vibrant green in my selection, so I might come back to that in future and sort of retouch it. But the overall effect is there. You can see we now have those missing fins or sort of blades back in place, and it doesn't look too bad at all. So yeah, with a better colour paint, I think that would be very hard to notice. And now the Road Ripper itself is looking really very good and almost ready to go. I've actually in the meantime bought another one that I found on eBay pretty cheaply because I wanted to see what my fixes were like compared to an original, because I'd never seen this original post on the Road Ripper. So I've bought one now, and this one has the original post on, and I actually think my little seatbelt post is better than this one, because this one is really very weak and very sort of simply designed, so that I think that's going to be quite easy to knock off, and I can now clearly see why those are always missing. So I'm very pleased with my little Lego fix there. And also the wheel on my one, you can see spins really very freely, but if we compare that to this original here, which I've not done anything to apart from clean, you can see this one doesn't sort of really spin that well at all. So I think my fix on that one might have improved this a bit, but we are still missing the stickers, and that's what we're going to work on now. I've done a quick search online. I found a few different scans of the sticker sheet. I think all of these scans are actually based off ones that are for sale on eBay, and looking at those, the quality of them is not great, but you know, it's good enough to work with. So I've taken those into Photoshop and tidied them up, and while working on those files I noticed that the eye sticker is not correct on the ones that you can buy on eBay. So I've redrawn that one from scratch, and now we have a version of those files that is as close to the original as I can possibly get. So if you buy the ones off eBay, be prepared to see that the eyes are not exactly the same as what they should be. The ones that I've created now are a perfect match. So let's get on and we'll stick those onto the vehicle. And here is a printout of those very stickers. This is printed onto glossy sticky backed printer paper, and all I've got to do now is cut them out. You'll see I've put a slight line around the edge of that. That is to stop sort of the white edging showing when you cut them out, to cut away that outer line and just be left with the inner sticker. There's not that many of them, and they're fairly obvious where they go. You can see things like this grille go behind the seat, and then we've got the computer panel here that goes on the front there. So I'm just going to cut these out quickly and apply them to the vehicle, and we can see what that looks like. If you want to do this to your own Road Ripper, then go to toy-polloi.com and you can download this file for free and print onto glossy sticky backed printer paper. But yeah, let's get cutting again. And as I always say, the stickers do make quite a big difference to how these vehicles look. So you can see here, this is the one that we've been restoring, and I've replaced most of the stickers on this. I did leave the factory applied ones on the rear sort of mud guards here, and also the eyes, so those are original, but everything else has been replaced. And on the other one that I picked up off eBay, I've actually replaced every single one of these, including the eye stickers and these rear mudguard ones, just because they were so badly damaged or missing completely. But as you can see, that looks really very nice, and both of these Road Rippers are now sort of fit for display. But what we really need to do is to go and test them. So let's take these out into my garden and get them road ripping. That was really good fun. As you can see, the Road Ripper really does fly. It doesn't go quite as fast as I sort of imagined it did as a child, but it does shoot along quite well, and as you can see, it did take care of Skeletor. Now with the Road Ripper, if you don't have this ripcord, the toy doesn't actually work. There's not a lot you can do with it, and the ripcord is one of the parts that's actually pretty hard to find. You can see everything else has been relatively easy to repair, but this piece is often missing. So let's see if we can find a modern day alternative to the ripcord. ripcord. I've been looking online just to see what toys have ripcords currently, because the ripcord that comes with the Road Ripper is very specific to the toy. The teeth have a certain sort of distance between them, the cord is a certain thickness, and it's going to be finding something like this that sort of actually fits inside the toy that makes it quite hard work. So the first thing I've bought is this, and it's a toy called Flywheels. This is made by a company called Jakks Pacific. I bought a couple of toys from them before, because they do have the license for some of the Star Wars ones. I'd never seen this toy before, but it came up when I was searching for them. And as you can see, it has a ripcord here. The idea is you pull this cord through and it spins this wheel, which is supposed to sort of fly off. And it says it goes up to 200 miles per hour at scale. So yeah, whatever that is. This is quite small, but it looks like quite an interesting toy. And looking at the photos online, the ripcord looked sort of kind of like the one that came with the Road Ripper. Now that I've actually got it in hand, I don't think it's going to work, but it's certainly worth a try. The cord is a lot thicker and the teeth are a lot bigger. This cost me, I think it was £3 plus £2 postage, so not massively expensive, but certainly worth a try. So let's get this cord out. It looks like it's held in with a screw, and we'll try this on the Road Ripper and see if we can actually get it to work. I don't think this one will, but it's certainly worth a try. So to get access to this, it's been held on with a sort of tiny little piece of plastic that's screwed together. I'm guessing this is so you can't steal it in the shop. So take that off. We can take the cord out, like so. We put that toy to one side. If this doesn't work, I'm going to put the toy back together and I'm going to drop it into a charity shop, because there's no point in me having something like that. Let's see if this goes in. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. As soon as I'd seen this, you can see that the ripcord is just that bit too thick to fit in. I probably could modify it a bit, but I don't think that would ever work. And if we look sort of closely side by side, you can see that the teeth on the original ripcord are quite small, and the teeth on this new one are much thicker. So it was a nice idea, but sadly, that one is not going to work. Next up, we're going to check out a ripcord that comes with some Lego, and as we know, Lego is often the answer to this. So there's a set of Lego called Ninja Go, and a couple of those toys come with ripcords. And I bought one of those, and this is it. And actually, I've already made a few little modifications to this, because again, as soon as I saw it, you could see that the actual cord was a little bit too thick. So straight away, what I've done is I've trimmed off the edge of it, just using a pair of plastic nippers. I've trimmed the edge of it off to make it thinner, and that already seems to have worked. And then the next thing I've done is this one is actually a little bit on the thin side. So if we hold it up side by side, it was a little bit thin. So what I've done is I've taken some electrical tape. So this is black electrical tape, and I've put 3 layers of black electrical tape on the bottom of this just to make it a little bit thicker. Basically, you put a bit of tape on, put another bit of tape on, and another bit of tape on, and then cut it with a knife, cut the edges off. And what I'm left with is this, which looks remarkably like the original ripcord. The teeth are slightly bigger still, but I have a feeling that won't make too much of a difference. So let's try this ripcord in the Road Ripper and we'll see if it works. So let's bring one of these in. We'll do the one with man-at-arms on. So we push this ripcord in. You can see that actually fits in the back of it, unlike the other one. And now we'll give this a pull and see if we can get this flywheel going. And there you go. We've got it working. So the answer, if you have a missing ripcord, is get one of these. I'll put the number at the bottom of the screen. This is a piece of Lego. It does need a couple of bits of modification, but that's easy to do. What you've got to do is just cut off the edge. There's a sort of a flat piece that goes along this edge. It's very easy to cut off just using plastic nippers. And then 3 layers of electrical tape just to make it a little bit thicker. If you don't put the electrical tape on, this ripcord doesn't have enough sort of push on it to grip onto the gears inside this. It sort of it just pulls straight out. So putting a little bit of thickness on the back of that, this ripcord works. And there we go. We have a ripcord that is almost as good as the original one that came with the toy. And there we go, that is it for this video. I've now got 2 very nice working Road Rippers. The one that I started with, the wheel has been reattached. We've got the new seat belt there. I've repaired the little fins at the back, and we have a replacement ripcord if we need it, and yeah, we've now got a road ripper that really does rip along. I do need to say a big thank you to Lawrence from Toy Planet UK. I'm going to put a link to his Facebook group on here. He very kindly, at the last toy fair I went to, gave me a big box of broken toys that he couldn't sell, and in that box was this very road ripper. So a big thanks to Lawrence. Do check out his Facebook page. He has lots of stuff for sale all the time, and I do buy a lot from him, so do check that out. If you've enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to be notified each time I upload a new video, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.